This is Captain Chris Myers of Central Florida Sight Fishing Charters, and in this two-part series I'm going to discuss booking a fishing charter, things you should think about, things you want to ask, and things you should do before and during your trip to make it a better experience. So thanks for tuning into this channel. This channel is all about helping you become a better angler, and I've been doing fishing charters for almost 15 years now. So I've had lots of different experiences from people all over the world, and I thought I would share some information with people who maybe haven't booked a fishing charter yet, or they haven't booked very many, and things you might want to consider that make your trip turn out much, much better. The first thing I'd like you to know is that just about every guide I know wants you to catch fish as much as you want to catch those fish, and we want you to catch the biggest and the most fish that you've ever gotten, so that you tell everyone you meet how great of a trip it was. Even if the fish aren't biting that great that day, we're still trying to get you the best fishing experience of your lifetime, because we need those kind of referrals to keep our business going. So there's lots of different guides, and of course the easiest way for you to find a guide is to have someone you know say, hey, I fished with so-and-so and I had a great time, or I fished with so-and-so and I wouldn't go back there. So word of mouth is going to be the best way for you to find a fishing guide. But if you haven't met anyone that's going to your particular location, obviously the next best thing is to go get on Google and start doing a search. The more specific terms you put in, the better the results that you're going to get. So if you just put in fishing guide in Florida, you're going to get a whole lot of different guides that do all kinds of different fishing. And if you're specifically looking to, say, go bone fishing in Miami, you get a lot better results if you put in bone fishing guide near Miami, so that you're not having to sort through a lot of results that don't apply to the kind of fishing that you're looking for. Be specific in your Google searches. But even when you do that, you're still going to get lots of results. And how do you know which one to pick? So if you don't know much about Google, they have no way of ranking the best to the worst. They use a lot of different factors in ranking, some of which people are paying to be up at the top. Just because someone's at the very top doesn't mean that they're a better or worse fishing guide than any of the guy that's on page 10. So it has a lot to do with things other than fishing skills. Don't just grab the first one you see necessarily. Pick some people that are on that first page, start reviewing their sites, and see if it looks like they do the kind of stuff that you're looking for. If you have an idea what kind of fish you'd like to target in the area you're going, it helps you narrow down the kind of guide that you're looking for. So for example, here in Florida, we have offshore fishing guides that go way out in the ocean. We have guides that fish near shore in the ocean by the beaches. We have inshore saltwater. We have freshwater lakes, we have some rivers, we have kayak guides, canoe guides, guides with boats, guides that will take you walking. So there's all kinds of different fishing trip experiences in Florida. So if you don't have any idea what you're looking for, then you're going to have to do a lot more research. But if you've been, say, watching a TV show and you know you want to go catch some redfish in Mosquito Lagoon, then you can start looking for that specific guide that'll help you get the experience you're looking for. Even if you don't know what kind of guide you want, if you just say, I want to go saltwater fishing because I don't have any saltwater where I live, or I wanted to go bass fishing because I heard there's great bass fishing in Florida, just put in saltwater fishing near the city you're going to, or bass fishing near the city you're going to. You're going to get some guides that do that kind of fishing. Start looking at their website. So things you want to look for on their website is, does it look up to date? Now that doesn't mean, again, that the guide's any better or worse. I know some great guides that never do anything to their website, and they have outdated, cheesy websites. I know some guys with phenomenal websites that don't know that much about guiding. So that doesn't mean you're a great guide just because you have a great website. But when you start putting all these things together, it helps you make a decision on who you're going to pick. So take a look at their website. Does it show you pictures of what they do? Does it show you pictures of the boat? Does it look like something that you would like to do? Does it have any videos that you can check out that shows you exactly what they do? Does it have a fishing report that seems somewhat up to date, that shows you the kind of fish they're catching, and you can go back and look and see what kind of fish they catch at the time of year you're going to be there? So these are kind of things you want to look at when you're selecting your fishing guide. Once you've figured out someone that you think you might want to go with this person, the next thing you're gonna do is contact them and say, hey, these are the dates I'm coming. Do you have anything available? You have flexible days in there. It's a lot easier for you to book a trip. When you contact this guide, it's very important that you tell them specifically what it is you would like to do, so that you can be sure that your guide can accommodate that kind of trip. So I've had people contact me, for instance, and after we've been talking a while, they're ready to book the trip, and then they say, yeah, we want to go deep sea fishing. But I don't do deep sea fishing. They just picked the first guide they saw on Google and said, that must be the guy, and come to find out I didn't do what they wanted. Or you might want to fly fish only, and you might contact a guy and he says, I really don't know anything about fly fishing. It's not my thing. I only fish with bait. And you want to know this information before you get to your trip so that you're not disappointed and spending a whole bunch of money on something you really didn't want. When you contact your guide, whether it's by phone or email, make sure you're telling him exactly what you're looking for and find out if he offers that kind of trip. One of the unfortunate things is, just like every other occupation, you're going to find a few unethical individuals while you're searching for fishing guides. Every occupation has them, and we're certainly no exception. And you may run into the old bait and switch technique. And it usually works in one of two ways: either location switch or the type of fishing switch. So say you picked out your trip that you really been wanting to do, and it was for a specific location in a specific species. And you start looking on the internet and you find the first guy up there and you contact them and you say, I want to go fish for species A at location B, and they proceed to tell you how horrible the fishing is there, or they tell you those species don't really bite too good and you need to come over to a different spot and try catching a different kind of fish, or a completely different style of fishing altogether. So you'll have guys who fish offshore out in the ocean that advertise fishing inshore, and you call them and they'll say, oh, the fishing isn't any good in there, you need to come out with me on this more expensive trip out in the ocean. Or you may call a guy to go fly fishing for bass, and they'll tell you, oh, fly fishing doesn't work, you need to pay extra and buy some bait and go live bait fishing with me over here. So if you find that happening, there is a chance that that person is telling you the truth, and maybe for one reason or another those species aren't biting in that particular time. When you're booking a guide, you want to watch out for the old bait and switch technique. Now, unfortunately, just like every other occupation, you're going to find a few unethical individuals, and fishing guides are certainly no exception. And the bait and switch technique can work in a few different ways. They can bait and switch you on locations, styles of fishing, species of fish. So maybe that you have a particular place you want to fish, and you call up that person and they say, oh, the fishing's horrible over there, you want to come over here with me to a different spot. And that could be the truth, or it could be that the other spot's closer to their house, or they don't have permits to fish the spot that you want, or for one reason or another it's saving them money to fish at another place. So they advertise at the more popular place that you want to go, and then try to tell you you need to go to a different location. It can also work with fishing styles. Maybe you want to go fly fishing. There's plenty of guys who advertise fly fishing but know very little or nothing about it, and they take you out there, and maybe you need a little casting help or help with technique, and they can't offer that to you because they're not a fly fishing guide, but they advertise as such so they can get your business, and once you're out there it's too late. A third technique is species of fish. Maybe you want to catch species A, and you call the first person you see and they tell you, oh, those fish aren't biting, you need to come with me and catch a different kind of fish. And again, that could be true. People sometimes call me in the winter time and they want to go tarpon fishing, or they call me for bonefish, which I don't have here, and I say, we don't have that, but maybe you want to go try redfish. But if people called me in the summertime or the fall and they wanted to go tarpon fishing, I said, well, there's no tarpon here, that's probably not true. So check with a couple other people and see if you're getting the same story from everybody, or if you have been the victim of the bait and switch technique. Before you send any money to a guide, you want to be sure that this person is fully licensed and permitted for the area that you want to go. So check online, find out what license is required for a guide there. Is insurance required? Are any special permits required? Where I fish, I have to have a special permit from the National Park System and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. In order to get that permit, I have to carry insurance. But the state of Florida does not require me to have insurance, and there's plenty of guides who don't carry insurance. Now, would you want to fish on a boat with a guy who doesn't have insurance? Is that protecting you and your party? I like to run my business so that I protect myself and my clients. So you may want to check and see, does your guide have insurance? Does he have the proper federal, state, and local licenses and permits? So when you see these ultra low price charters, a way that people can offer those is by not having and not getting those permits, which obviously cost money. One thing I can recommend that I've seen happen over and over is if the guide asks you, what is your experience? Don't over exaggerate your fishing skills. So nobody wants to say, hey, I'm not that good at fishing, but your guide can tailor a trip that's much more suited to a person who hasn't ever fished at all, has very little experience, or maybe you only troll and you don't have any casting or very little casting experience, or maybe you fly fish in a tiny stream and you've never cast out in big open water with a fly rod. These are things that you should tell your guide before you get there, while you're booking your trip, so your guide can tell you if you have the skills to accomplish what it is you're looking for, or he can probably tell you, we'll try our best, but maybe this really isn't for you, or maybe you want to consider trying this kind of fishing or that kind of fishing. The guides in each particular area all throughout the country know what is going to work, what's not going to work in their area, whether you're in Alaska or whether you're down here in Florida or anywhere in between. People exaggerate their skills. They say, I want to come down there, I just want to sight fish. And in 2 minutes, we might have to tell them, well, your casting skills are just not going to cut it, and you're not going to catch a fish like that. And maybe that was all you wanted to do. They don't want to touch a piece of bait. They don't want to fish any other way. And now in 5 minutes, they've discovered, I don't think we can do this. Get those things out ahead of time. Discuss them with your guide so he can give you an honest opinion on exactly the kind of fishing we offer and whether he thinks you will be able to accomplish your goal. Other things you might want to ask your guide when you're talking to him is what is included. Some guides include drinks and not food. Some include food and drinks. Some say you bring your own food and drinks. Some might have a no alcohol policy, and maybe where you fish, no alcohol allowed. An example where I fish is no bottles are allowed in the wildlife refuge, so it has to be in cans or plastic. So these are things that you need to know before you go. What can I bring? What am I supposed to bring? Am I supposed to bring in my own fishing equipment? Do you provide all the fishing equipment? What kind of equipment is it? Is it spinning rods? Is it bait casting rods? Fly rods? What kind are they? What size are they? These are things that you want to ask your guide. So again, so you don't have surprises when you show up. What kind of equipment does your guide carry on their boat? Is it equipment that you would want to use? So if you don't have very much or no experience fishing, it probably isn't going to matter a whole lot. You'll be happy with whatever they give you. But if you're an experienced angler, maybe you fish all the time, you spend lots of money on your fishing equipment, you just never taken a charter, and you decided you were going to lay down several $100s on a fishing charter, and you get there and you find out they have $29 reels with some monofilament line and a $30 rod, and you're used to using a $150 reel with a $200 rod and braided line, and all day you're fishing with subpar equipment. Are you going to be happy on that trip, or are you going to be wishing all day that you wouldn't have laid down so much money for cheap equipment? So if you're an experienced angler, don't be afraid to ask your guide what kind of equipment they have. If you're a fly fishing angler, what do they offer you? If you're going to use their rods and reels, what kind of rods and reels do they carry on their boat? Is it something you've ever heard of? Is it something you would want to use? Does your guide use braid or monofilament? Maybe your guide only uses one or only uses the other, and you only like fishing with one or the other. So are you going to fish with someone who has equipment on your boat that you are going to like? Because you're the one going to be using it all day. You need to be happy with that equipment. Don't get to your trip, find out it was equipment that you really don't like, and then you're going to be miserable all day because you failed to ask what type of stuff your guide carries and gives you to use. You would need to ask if there is a license included. So in freshwater in this state, all the anglers must buy and purchase their own license. In saltwater, the guide has to have a license that covers you. So it's going to be different every state you go to. You need to know before you get to the dock or whatever the meeting place is, do I need a license? Do I have to buy it? So there's no need to buy a license and then get there and find out you didn't need one because the guide had one for you. So find these things out in advance so there's no surprises the day of the trip. Once you decide to book your trip, you're all happy, you think you can, the guide offers exactly what you're looking for. Just about every guide is going to require a deposit. And the reason we require a deposit is to make sure that people don't wake up the morning of the trip and decide, I'm too tired, I don't feel like going today. And now we as guides have lost a whole day's pay, and we may have turned down various other trips for that day because we already thought we were booked. So getting a deposit makes sure that the client shows up, and if for some reason they don't, which I almost never have had someone not show up that sent a deposit, if they didn't, at least we get something for that day and don't go completely without pay. So the deposit may range from $100 up to half the trip, 3/4. Every guide is going to have their own policy. Find out what that policy is, and also find out what the deposit refund policy is. Every guide is probably going to have their own policy. Some may have a no refunds whatsoever. Some may have 7 to 10 days. Some may have you can only apply it to other trips. It's going to vary between guides. Most guides are working for themselves, but even if you find someone who's working for a fly shop or a marina, find out what that deposit policy is, what the weather policy is. You know, what kind of weather do we go out in? Do we go out no matter what unless it's lightning or a tornado? Or if it rains, do we not go out? These are things you're going to want to know while you're booking that trip. Find out what the weather and deposit policy are going to be. And finally, one other thing you can do to help you catch more fish is once you've booked your trip, start researching about fishing in that area. If you've never been there, find out what the kinds of fish are, what styles do people use to fish them. If you were coming to fish with me, I have a YouTube channel, and almost all of my videos are based on things that I see clients do over and over that prevent them from catching more fish. Now, as a guide, we never expect someone to show up and be an expert. We understand that most people don't get to fish that much, and even people who fish all the time may never have fished in the style we use in this particular location, or if I were to travel somewhere else, I may have never fished that way, and it would be completely new to me. So guides aren't going to expect you to show up and be an expert, but if you do some research on your own and try to learn about the techniques, and if you had a chance to practice them before you get there, it gives you a lot better chance to catch those fish. Something you might want to ask about are, what are the restroom facilities? Are there facilities on the board? Are we going to be going in a bucket? Are we going over the edge? Do you drop me off on the shore? If you think you may need to use the restroom while you're out there, especially when you're bringing some women, find out what that situation is before you get out there and discover that there are no restrooms within miles. But thanks for tuning in today. Hopefully this video helped you come up with some questions and answered some questions you may have had about booking a fishing trip. It gave you some ideas for how to communicate better with your guide before and during the trip, and things you can do to make your overall experience better. Become a subscriber to this channel. I got lots of fishing content on here, playlists for everyone from knot tying, fly fishing, spin fishing, general fishing, tackle maintenance. Got lots of different things on my channel. If you're coming to Central Florida, I could take you fishing for redfish, trout, black drum, tarpon, and various other species in the Mosquito Lagoon over Daytona Beach, Cocoa Beach, 1 hour from Orlando and Disney. Hope to see you soon.